and welcome to January. And this has been something we've been wondering how it would play out since the playoff schedule was announced. The semifinal games or the quarterfinal games were on December 31st. 2 were on the 1st, and 1 was on the 2nd, but 3 of them are designed to be on the 1st, obviously. We had the terrorist attack in New Orleans, pushed it back. The championship game is the 20th, Monday the 20th. So we have 2 semifinal games to be played between ostensibly the 1st and the 20th, which is not ideal. But there's this little thing called the NFL playoffs. It tends to soak up all of the oxygen in the conversation, all of the viewers, and all of the time slots that you could possibly have. And this is an inherent problem with college football. The one thing they did do really well when it was just a poll-driven sport was they ended on January 1. I'll give them that. That was about the only thing they had going. And I think ideally everybody agrees the best thing to do would be get back as close as possible to January 1, where you finish up. I don't know if you just want a championship game on January 1, even if that was possible, because part of the fun of January 1st is the tons of games going on. But what we have here is a game next Thursday, Penn State and Notre Dame. That's going to be primetime, standalone. And then Friday, we'll have the standalone Texas-Ohio State game. If you're a football fan, and I would think virtually everybody listening to this likes both college and the NFL, it's an unbelievable weekend next weekend. You go in college semifinal on Thursday, college semifinal on Friday, 3 playoff games on Saturday, 3 playoff games on Sunday, and then 1 on Monday. NFL, I think, or 2. I don't know. It's 5 days of football nirvana, and I think that will be a benefit to college football. I think one way of soaking in some of the NFL fans is just that you're part of like it's football time in big numbers. So, however, Pat, James Franklin, Penn State coach, had some comments about the schedule. A lot of coaches have schedules. I know, Ross, you talked to some coaches. Everybody's heard from different things on what to do. What did Coach Franklin have to say, Pat?
Yes, he was talking about it yesterday. Did a Saturday Zoom call ahead of the Orange Bowl, and he was talking just about basically the uneven time schedules between games, and that, you know, they're used to playing weekly. And he said the schedule is a little different. We had a longer preparation period. I don't know why that is from a college football playoff perspective. You'd think it would be the same for each one, but this one is a little bit shorter. So, you know, the kind of like you're stretching the accordion. All of a sudden, at one point of the calendar, it's longer between games, then it's shorter between games. And, you know, I think he says, I don't know why that is from a college football playoff perspective. I'm sure he does know why. And Dan, you just said why. The NFL is why. And so they've been trying to hopscotch around the NFL, and that's why we have semifinals on a Thursday and a Friday, which some people don't like. I think it's going to be fine. I think a ton of people are going to watch. We'll see if that holds true, and if it doesn't, if there's blowback or what may change. But then you've got the long layoff through the next weekend to play on that Monday, January 20th, which causes several issues. One, you know, how much audience do you lose going through 2 rounds of NFL playoffs? How much audience do you lose when there's only 2 teams left and they've been playing since August and people are just maybe a little bit burned out on the college aspect of it? And it's like, all right, I'm just going to watch the NFL. Are they still doing this playoff thing in college? And then the third thing, unnoticed by almost everyone, of course, the academic calendar for the teams. They go back to school for the 4 teams that are left. 3 of them go back to school January 13th. One, Ohio State, goes January 6th. Add drop for all their classes ends before January 20th. I don't know how many of them are even going to have spent any time in class to have decided whether they want to add or drop classes. The NCAA did issue some guidance. I'll stop here because I'm getting too far into the weeds. But they did issue some guidance. For a while, it looked like everybody had to be enrolled if you're playing in the championship game, even if you've already graduated, for the next semester, which would have been insane and would have taken up spots for everybody else. It's like you have to be an enrolled student athlete for the competition. They finally rolled that back. So basically, if you were in academic good standing at the end of last semester, you're okay through the playoff. But anyway, there's a lot going on from the calendar standpoint.
A lot for sure. I wonder, Pat, you mentioned the semis on Thursday and Friday, and how you think they're still going to get do well. I think TV they're going to still do well. We've seen the ratings do really well all playoff. But I wonder about attendance. It being on Thursday and it being on Friday on a weekday, the first full week back of work after the holidays. You do wonder about how well attended it will be. Will it be like some of this conference championship games where they're 60, 70% full, or will it be more like we saw, at the quarterfinals, which was pretty full? It seemed like, a lot of those stadiums. So the calendar is certainly a hot topic. It has been for a while because we can't figure out how to slow down this stretch and how to sort it out. I got a message from a SEC head coach over the weekend. He has a plan, as all the coaches have a plan, as you know. Yeah, as you guys know. He wants to get rid of the
bids. 8 automatic bids for the SEC. Well, no. Play all games in Atlanta or New Orleans.
Not going to have much of an argument for that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're going to get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So number one, this is a 6-part plan.
Oh, okay.
This is a 6-part plan.
All right, hold on.
Part
now,
one.
Don't tell us.
Okay.
But I think we could rule out some. I don't think Sam Pittman is going to come up with a 6-part plan. I don't think it's somebody.
I can't give away
who
it is.
Give away. I'm just going to. There's a few guys.
Process of elimination.
I think we can rule out a couple guys. That's like 6-part now. He would have gotten bored after 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, Sam's offensive linemen are smart, so maybe. I'm sorry, Sam. Go ahead, Ross.
So you're only ruling out Sam? That's the only one you're ruling out?
List, but I think it'd be. I don't want to reveal to confirm or deny nothing. To confirm or deny nothing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So step one is get rid of the December portal window.
Fine.
So you just have one portal window in the spring. And if you guys remember, they actually thought about doing this, having one portal window. It came before the Division I Council in October. The proposal, it was going to be just a fall window. They were actually going to eliminate the spring window. But they couldn't agree for a great many reasons. They decided to delay that and keep the 2 windows. One of them was there was disagreement on which season you should have the window in, the spring or the fall. So step 2, Dan, is eliminate spring practice and have only individual instruction. I think that we're headed toward that anyway. That's going to probably happen. Is there's going to be a reduced spring, like drills and spring games probably are not going to exist as they do now. I would say
that would bring me indescribable joy. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, think about the spring games. They put on display all the players for the portal, right? And so coaches have really they've cooled on the spring game thing for sure. Step 3 is to have the portal, a 10-day portal in April. So you eliminate the fall, and then you have the 10-day one in April. Step 4, that's not really a step.
We got to get to the playoff schedule. What's 4?
Step 4 is give 10 days in June for OTAs, which is something talked about. Instead of spring, you have like OTAs in June. Okay. And then the last step here, it was a 5-step plan, not a 6-step plan, Dan, is keep the February and July the dead period, and make March also a dead period as well. So this calendar's more on,
none of this has to do with the playoff.
Coach-centric recruiting.
This has nothing to do with the playoff.
The only impact on the playoff is the December transfer portal.
The playoff is another topic altogether. I think this is a recruiting focused coach kind of suggestion. The playoff, Dan, we've talked many times, right? That the ideal is to move up the regular season by a week. And so you have the semifinals on New Year's Day, and you play your opening round on the second week of December instead of the third.
Yeah.
Right. They got to get to the second week of December somehow.
2 weeks. You got to play back-to-back weeks in December. Next year would be the 13th and the 20th. And then you play the 1st, which would be a Thursday. And then you finish up the Friday night or Thursday night before the NFL playoffs begin. That'd be ideal to me. The question there is, do you move the whole season 1 week into the summer, at which time you now have given up Thanksgiving weekend as rivalry weekend, which it used to not be? I'm pretty sure a lot of the games were played before Thanksgiving. And then you have conference championship Thanksgiving weekend, or do you eliminate conference championship weekend and just end the season, regular season? And if there's some ties or whatever, but they can sort it out. And then you just have Army Navy on the 6th, the first weekend of December. The Heisman goes then. That would probably be more ideal. I don't worry about attendance, whatever. It doesn't have to be sold out. It's a TV show. I don't think it's. I'd rather these things were at home, but understandably, you get to the semifinals, maybe you don't want to do that. There'll be a crowd. There's also, as this thing grows, there'll be enough interest from people locally who will want to go to games. NCAA basketball regionals aren't always sold out. Regional finals. I'd rather it's at home campus, but whatever. I think the TV ratings would be great.
I think it'll do very well. And attendance, Texas playing in Arlington, I think that we'll have no problem putting everybody in Jerry World, especially in Ohio State being involved there too. I think there's a lot of Ohio State fans that were holding their money for this round. I'm sorry, Penn State, if I don't know if I said that right. A lot of Penn State fans are holding their money for this round. Notre Dame's got fans everywhere. I think we'll have plenty of people in the seats and certainly plenty watching on TV.
Yeah, if it's 80%, 90%, whatever. I'm not really too worried about that. You can't make everything perfect.
Well, one of the problems with moving up all this, we're talking about, is the getting the networks on board with moving the rivalry weekend off of Thanksgiving. It's such a huge ratings bonanza of a weekend for them with all these rivalry games, and that's been an issue when it came up a couple of years ago, and they thought a little more seriously about doing that, about making week 0 week 1. When they started getting down the line and exploring it, of course, the TV network situation came up, and they don't want to see it moved. They don't want 10 games on Thanksgiving weekend, which, conference championship weekend would be about 10 games or so. They want whatever it is, 70 games.
Yes, 50, 70 games. Yeah.
This may be a naive thing for me to even ask, but does TV always have to be undefeated? I guess it does.
Question.
I guess it does because of the money involved.
They write the checks, yeah. They tend to care a lot more about what they think than us.
For sure. They don't even listen. They don't listen to the coaches and administrators. They do what they want.
Substantial rights fees that the College Football Enquirer doles out.
I also, you know what? How about if we move Army Navy to that weekend? Why does it have to be after everything else? What's sacrosanct about that?
Once again,
boy.
TV. Yeah, right. CBS. It's a huge contract with CBS, and CBS wanted it that the ratings do so well there because they're a standalone on that date and all that stuff. It goes back to TV. It all goes back to TV. Damn.
Well, yeah, Army, Navy. No one's touching that political third rail. Come on.
Yeah.
I can. I'm going to be realistic on what's feasible with these guys, but we'll see.
Go ahead. Let me just continue to be argumentative for a second.
I like that. Yeah, that's why you're here.
What are the ratings for Army Navy? It's 10 million? It doesn't do 10 million?
Oh, no, it doesn't do that
No,
well.
4 or 5.
Let me look
So why
real
are we
quick here.
treating it
I
if
used to
this
have
is
it.
all a TV program?
It's America, Pat. It's America.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Oh,
Yeah.
well, damn. It got close to 10. So last
Really?
year's game did 7.2.
Okay.
The 2017 game was the highest, I think. It was more than 8 million. I think it was like 8.5 million.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But to your point, you're shutting down. That's all there is.
Yeah, you're going to shut down an entire week for.
Right.
I mean,
but
Now
like,
they have bowls on that weekend, right? But not at the same time.
There were many weeks from the dawn of time, basically through the 80s, when they played in November. Then they switched it to December, and it's kind of stayed, in that later slot in December. Anyway, all right, that's enough of that.
The commissioners, when they were talking met in the spring about like what to do about Army and Navy, you remember the whole thing of like they would the selection committee would select one of the teams before they actually played against each other, right? They would keep when they were arguing about all that, one of the suggestions was, well, just move Army Navy to week 0, like open the season every year with it. And that very quickly got shot down by the conferences and by the network and all that. So, yeah, I don't think that one's moving.
Too.
Yeah, the academies. Yes.
I think one of the things that college football can do, and I know there's just been this bit where it's like, don't compete with the NFL. And I'm not suggesting that they do. And obviously ESPN's not going to throw a game up against the NFL, right? They were worried about that even in December. They put the 2 games that competed more directly with the NFL on TNT. But I do think that if you can start drawing in NFL fans, the more you're just football.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a lot of people in this country who watch the NFL, they don't understand college football. They don't. Who are these teams? What is this? What is that? Right? All the different stuff. And as this playoff becomes easier to follow, which is a big part of it. Hey, there was nothing on. I came home. There was this Notre Dame playing Georgia. I watched. Now Notre Dame's on again. I can watch. Like the sport makes more sense than, wait, didn't you see that Notre Dame wrapped up that bid on November 12th and now they're playing on January 1st? Like, right. So there's a thing to it. So I think the sport the more it can kind of drag in. It is hard to get media attention. I think the 20th is way too late, but this is where we're at with that. So we'll see. They'll adjust. I think also there's a worry of like how many games in a row do you want these guys playing? Like giving some time for these are college players, albeit well paid at this point.
Yeah. But I mean, one of the things that's been talked about, at least one of the championship game participants will be playing its 17th game, maybe both.
Right.
The only team that would be played one fewer so far is Notre Dame because they weren't in a conference and didn't play a conference championship game.
Ohio State didn't play.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I take that back. So,
but Texas and Penn State, they would be playing 17, right?
Texas and Penn State would be playing their 17th game if they make the championship.
Yeah, because they played in the first round too.
We'll be back right after this to talk about some portal winners. What schools are winning?
Introducing Daily Draw, the latest free-to-play game from Yahoo Sports. Daily Draw gives you a pack of 6 prediction cards every day based on the day's biggest sporting event. Download or update the Yahoo Sports app on the Apple App Store or Google Play and join the action with Daily Draw today.
All right, so the transfer portal has not been moved to the spring. I don't really know how you do that because you would force kids and coaches to have guys on campus that want to leave. Coaches, a lot of kids in the portal are gone because coaches told them they don't have a future at the program. There are also a lot of kids that just said, I don't want to be at this program. I don't want to go to this school anymore. And then there's others that it's a combination. Or they just are like, I'm looking for a better deal. There's some looking for that, but it would be kind of hard to do that. So we still have a December transfer portal. And this being the first week of January, looking at rivals, the rivals rankings of portal players, right? We have transfer portal transfer rankings and team rankings. It's all very much like recruiting now. I'm looking at the top 100. About 90 of them have already committed, if not maybe more, of the Rivals top 100. And just 2 of the top 20 haven't committed. USC receiver Zachariah Branch being the main one. Now, these are what Rivals thinks. I think we've seen in the transfer portal, there's talent where you get a great player. Say Caleb Downs goes to Ohio State. There's also the bit where you're kind of filling a spot of need. And so South Carolina field goal kicker Mitch Jeter goes to Notre Dame and then boots in 3, right? Or so I don't. And then sometimes you're getting guys out of D2. Nothing against the guys at Rivals or any other site, but it's hard to truly know what impact a guy will have coming in. But it is worth noting that almost everybody's committed. And so at that point, you can kind of look and say who's had a good go of it. And there are some teams that should be feeling really good about themselves or have some real hope for next year that, with the group they're bringing in, they can make a run at the playoff. And so let me go through some of these, some of the teams that stood out to me. One of them is LSU. LSU has 14 kids coming in. They have 18 leaving, but they've got a number of top 100 players. Patrick Payton, an edge rusher that they needed coming in from Florida State. They've got another defensive lineman, Sadir Mitchell from Texas, a cornerback, Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech. There's definitely, they're adding talent. They're not just they might be filling gas, but these are highly rated players that are coming in, particularly on the defensive line. And you're bringing back Nussmeier, you've got some other things there. Disappointing to a degree, but disappointing by the standards of the program under Brian Kelly, and he's got the uncomfortable nature of having Notre Dame rolling on, but there's some movement here on LSU. Pat?
Yeah, I mean, you would expect that, I think. LSU should be feeling urgency. It's one of those programs that has resources, cares deeply, is around talent, and needs to get better. This year was not good enough for LSU standards, and the Brian Kelly era hasn't been good enough for LSU standards. It hadn't been terrible by any means, but it hasn't been what LSU expects, and you're sitting there watching, what everybody else moving on and going to a 12-team playoff, and you're sitting at home. So that doesn't surprise me. That would be one that I would expect to be where they are in the transfer portal rankings.
Yeah, we're not spending those days in New Orleans with the Notre Dame people there. There was a lot of discussion about, obviously, Brian Kelly, Notre Dame playing in a quarterfinal in Louisiana while its former coach is coaching the Texas Bowl and is 8-4 in year 3. His replacement is 12-1, now 13-1. That was a big conversation piece, you might imagine. Brian Kelly, more than maybe any coach, has been pretty public about the NIL stuff. Basically, sending messages to his donors to give more and more. And then he gave, then he donated $1 million or matched up to $1 million. And then LSU got another booster, like an unnamed, I think, donor to do the same thing. To match up to $1 million. So maybe we're seeing the fruits of the donations there coming in, but it is a good sign that, or it is a sign that there's an urgency there to win. And we talked about this transition a lot, this kind of murky transition between how athletes are getting paid. Right now with collective money and donor money to it moving over to the school. But, that can't really start until July 1 after the settlement's done. So in the meantime, the stakes are high and the money is pretty high. And I think that LSU in certain schools know that and knew they needed to raise money, and it looks like they have.
Well, they got 6 of the top 61 players by Rivals. Barrion Brown, too, wide receiver from Kentucky. They also got Michael Van Buren Jr., quarterback from Mississippi State. That's their quarterback at State. And he's obviously not going to likely to start next year, but you kind of already set that up for the future. So good group. It's kind of now, or I wouldn't say now or never, but it's significant time for LSU to get moving, and they are responding really well. I'll give you another one, not quite as highly rated as LSU as you would expect, but people are very much buzzing about, and that is Texas Tech out of the Big 12. Now, they are losing Micah Hudson, their 5-star receiver from two recruiting classes ago. That was a big get for them, but he could not really get on the field in Lubbock last season. And they have brought in like 17 more guys. It's 3 top hundreds players and a couple on the border. I mean, Quentin Joyner, running back from USC, going to Texas Tech. Romello Height from Georgia Tech. A really good offensive lineman from Illinois State that people like. Purdue, Terrian Grant from Purdue, a defensive back. Joey McGuire keeps building this program, and this is it's a big group, but there's some really good talent going to Texas Tech, and it's very interesting because this isn't how this is supposed to work, or wasn't the expectation, and it kind of shows a way that perhaps a school like Texas Tech can build up their talent when there's used to be limitations. In terms of money, if you're watching Landman, I'm watching Landman. Anyone watching that?
What the hell is Landman?
It's about the West Texas oil field. It's got Billy Bob Thornton. Very good.
All right.
They got a lot of money if you watch Landman.
Yeah.
And
Billy Bob Thornton, you said, is it?
Yeah. I think that's the actor. He's funny. He's good in it.
Oh, yeah.
John Hamm is in it.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm like serious prestige TV guy, not just Deadliest Catch all the time.
Okay.
I don't just watch Deadliest Catch and Bobby Flay, although most of it. It's a great show. Captain Sig, come on. If he wanted to get in on this.
Captain Sig might actually be able to get on the pod.
Oh, yeah. He was on our old radio show. I got to interview him.
Yes.
It was one of the only times in the last, since my early days of journalism, I was nervous for an interview. I was legit nervous. Made it through. Anyway, Texas Tech, Pat.
Yeah. I mean, I think they kind of fits maybe some of the prototype of what we've seen. They're a striver. They want to get over the top to crash the club, so to speak. They're in the power conferences, but they've never gotten to the top of the power conferences. And they've seen that, hey, things can happen. And it's interesting. Look back at 2024 portal rankings. Number 5 was Arizona State. They came in and crashed the club in a big way this year. Texas Tech in the same league. Maybe others are saying, well, hell, why can't we? Let's go get some guys in the portal, and let's win the Big 12, and let's go to the playoffs. So, I think that they're one of those programs that should be looking and saying, why don't we, why we should have a chance at this. I will also point out from 2024, since, we love to retrospect backseat drive and everything here, but all the way down at number 23 in the portal rankings with a 2.59 average star rating of their transfers, Indiana, which was built almost entirely out of transfers and went 11-2 and made the playoffs. So not all portal rankings are gold, but it's interesting kind of to see who's making hay and who isn't.
Yeah, Texas Tech does strike me as one of the programs that we often talk about excelling in the NIL era because they have a lot of money and you think their donors want to get to that upper echelon and haven't really been there or haven't been there in a long time. I mean, since Leach was there, really, when they were consistently kind of up there. Tech's AD, Kirby Hocutt, is actually the only one so far to reveal how they're going to split up the rev share money. I thought that was fascinating. About a month ago, 3 weeks ago or so, he actually broke it down how they're going to split up by sport their $20 million and made the announcement that they won't be adding any other scholarships. With the settlement, you can add a lot more scholarships. Some programs are adding 150, like Clemson, like Ohio State's adding 90. And Texas Tech said they're not going to add any at all because $2.5 million of all new scholarships come off of your rev share, what you can offer in rev share. So they're going to do the full rev share. And one of the quotes I thought was really fascinating from Kirby Hokut in the local Lubbock paper was, he was asked about baseball, which is pretty big there. They have a good baseball program, and they're only going to get like $400,000 a year in rev share, at least the first year, in his breakdown, how they're going to distribute it. And he was asked, well, how can Texas Tech baseball program sustain itself against like SEC recruiting if it's not going to have any more scholarships and only $500,000 of rev share? And he made the comment, something to the effect of, well, I guess we'll need our donors in the community to step up, sort of thing. So the goal is obviously to use NIL, try to get NIL deals through this new clearinghouse to support the baseball program. And that's interesting to watch too, how much the community and the donors will support football too, in addition to what they're going to get in the cap. I think in his breakdown, it was like 15.1 million annually will go to football of the 20 million. So they got some money there, and it'll be interesting to see if Joe McGuire can turn the talent that he's getting into some wins.
I have to briefly hijack things here because Ross made mention of the Lubbock paper. The Lubbock paper is named the Avalanche Journal, which I always thought was one of the most interesting things of all time because there can't be any avalanches
no
in
avalanches
Lubbock.
in West
There's
Texas.
No mountains.
There isn't even a hill.
You can't have any avalanches.
There isn't even a 5-foot hill in that town, is there?
No.
The LBB is flat.
Yes, you can see New Mexico from the LBB.
Oh.
Anyway, but so I looked it up.
Yeah.
The paper was founded in 1900 by John James Dillard and Thad Tubbs. And according to Dillard, he chose the name Avalanche because he wanted the paper to surprise the citizens of Lubbock. So that's why we have an avalanche.
Well, all right.
In West Texas.
I had heard it was an avalanche of local news.
Well, that could be. I mean, I'm getting what I'm getting here. I can't, This is a
really good podcast we're doing today, isn't it?
It is excellent. It's outstanding.
Newspaper
Solid.
name, trivia.
Solid.
We had a 5-point plan on the playoff schedule that didn't mention the playoffs. We're doing great. Talking Texas Tech recruiting. It can't all be bangers, man. Can't all be bangers.
What do you expect? We can't churn out,
All right, let's talk Lane Kiffin and the Portal King because he's doing well too. He's got 7 top 100. No, 6. No, 7. 7 of Rivals' top 100 transfer recruits coming in. Deshaun Womack, a defensive end from LSU. He's got a linebacker from Nebraska, UAB. He's got Oklahoma, Caleb Odom from Alabama that he tweeted out that picture the day. Or he tweeted out the story about Alabama saying they needed more money that day. He was hinting on his bowl game that he'd figure out to have Jackson Dart petition for another year, taking shots at our man Diego up at Vanderbilt. Portal King's working it. Look, I don't want to get back into all, Lane complaining they didn't get in the playoff. They lost to Kentucky. That's why they didn't get in the playoff. But, and Kentucky beat nobody other than them. But one of these years, they're going to get in the playoff. Like this train still the Lane train is still moving forward.
Mm-hmm. You would think one of these years, that they need to get in the playoff, right, to keep the Lane train moving. You would think. I mean, they've obviously given there a lot of resources to get into the playoff, and this was, you look back, and this was supposed to be the year. They kind of had all the pieces, and it was certainly a big letdown and disappointment when they didn't get in, when they lost to Florida, and basically their chances were gone. I think there was a lot of disappointment in Oxford that didn't happen because this was kind of circled as the season. But given Lane's contract and how much he's getting paid there, you don't see a lot of jobs coming open right now. Obviously, it was a slow cycle. It appears that Lane will keep trucking there, and I think a lot of people thought that he would eventually leave, but there's not a job to leave for. And he's getting a really good contract, and he seems to be pretty happy there. His daughter's in school there. So it does seem like maybe he's building something there, and he's proven that you can get kids there. Here's the issue that Ole Miss will have in a lot of other programs that have excelled kind of in this 2 or 3 year murky kind of NIL period is when the schools start to be able to pay in rev share. Can they, will it even the field enough that actually they don't have the advantage that they did during this stretch? And, it's them. It's like programs like Tennessee too, where, during this stretch, Miami as well, they had this huge advantage. And can they keep that advantage by somehow going over the cap or whatever when all this kind of evens out? That's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I agree that is. Do we really level the playing field with rev share and how much? And I think, obviously the portal and NIL has already leveled the playing field to a degree, as we've talked about many times, including most of the last pod, I think. But the one thing, Kiffin's not just getting guys that were highly rated out of high school. He's getting guys who are producing in college right now. I mean, they got the top receiver from Oklahoma State. They got another good receiver from Wake Forest, running back from Missouri who did some stuff but didn't get a lot of playing time. But it's the Kurt Signetti mantra, but maybe with higher level players, is production over potential. With Signetti, he was getting guys from James Madison and Ohio U and Old Dominion, but Lane's getting guys who have produced elsewhere at power conferences. So I would expect them to continue to be really competitive. And then it's a question of, can they avoid stepping on their and keeping themselves out of the playoff?
Yeah, it's interesting that the schools that were smart were the ones that looked at the whole, people were like worried about they were going to be violating spirits of rules and stuff. And like you said, Miami, Tennessee, they were smart. Jump it. Let's go. There's not going to be an NCAA. These rules are going to change, whatever. Ask forgiveness if we have to, but don't ask permission. And they did get an early jump, and we'll see. I'm interested as they do the revenue sharing. And let's say there's $20 million, $15 million going to the roster. How do you keep your everyday booster from still giving?
Right. He gives. What do you mean?
No, like let's say you're the guy, you got some company, and you're ready to donate $20,000 to the collective every year. This started, it was exciting. I'm going to give $20,000. I'm well off. I'm going to give $20,000, $25,000. Not your Larry Ellison, Mrs. Ellison 4. Okay. I'm talking your regular guy. That's your bread and butter. And now you're like, well, they're getting paid by the school. Do I have to still give 25? Or do I give 15? Or what if the economy goes down a little bit, or something happens? Like, do I just not give? Because they do not allow this in pro sports. But like, you could be a Kansas City Chief fan. You could be like, I would name every one of my children Patrick Mahomes. Like I would, anything for Patrick. But do you like, hey, you want to give $20,000 to Patrick Mahomes? You're like, well, doesn't he make enough? Like, I love the guy because this guy's brought more joy to my life if you're a Chiefs fan than anybody other than your own family, probably. Yet, do you really want to hand a guy making that much? So I wonder if they can keep that up. And these schools with great fundraisers, man, forget about having like a special teams coordinator. You have a fundraiser guy is the one that's invaluable. So maybe some of them will, some of them won't. But like you're right. Miami, Tennessee, some of these ones really popped. They were really smart. They're really well organized. They had really fired up fan bases, and they maxed it out, and they did great. Can they continue that? We'll see. I'm guessing probably, but
Yeah, well, I think the donors. I mean, that is a concern of, I think a lot of schools are telling the donors, we need you to now give like you have to the collective. Well, please take that money and give it to the school directly, right? Because the donations money isn't counted actually in the formula to get the cap, the cap number. So, but you can use donation money. Obviously, a school can to pay players to share the revenue. So, I think a lot of schools are saying, "Hey, please give the same to us because we still need that money, right, to share with athletes."
But I think there was an element of like this. I can see my donation today will help me get this guy tomorrow that will make an interception on October 18th. Like there was a direct thing, and they were fired up for that. But it's a little harder to do when the guys are already getting paid. Would be my guess, my hesitation. I ain't giving $1, so.
No, the Minutemen need Dan Wetzel's money.
I'd give to like St. Bonaventure basketball. I'd go with Woj. I may go with Bonnie's Collective.
Give to various swimming programs. That's about as far as I would go.
Yeah, Pat's got. But you got something out of those places. You got free school.
The swimming needs your money as much as you can.
Yeah,
Swimming
programs sure as hell do.
Need your money more than anybody. Yeah, right now.
Poor old Stanford. I don't know how they even keep the lights on. How do they keep the lights on? Anyway, Auburn is an interesting one.
Yes.
A little like LSU. It is a big season here. And they need help. And they've gone out and done some of it. The big one is quarterback Jackson Arnold, who I don't know how you rate him. I don't know what you want to rate him. Was it a bad situation at Oklahoma, or is he a bad quarterback at Oklahoma? We have seen plenty of guys take find a new place, and it pops. Jackson Arnold certainly had a lot of talent, but that is the big one, is they've got him. They're also bringing in Eric Singleton, a wide receiver from Georgia Tech, who absolutely is a good player. And another guy, another wide receiver from Wake Forest. There's a bunch of good players, but can Jackson Arnold, there's good high school recruiting. They're doing very well in high school recruiting. Like Auburn's been a disappointment so far. And Jackson Arnold, we trust here to save this program right now, Pat?
I don't know. I mean, he might still be learning and growing and getting better, or he might be DJ Uyunglele. And, where you're getting what you get, what we've seen. And that's a guy who's prone to making a lot of mistakes. That is TBD. And it's interesting. They also brought in another quarterback, Ashton Daniels, who was the starter at Stanford from Buford, Georgia. And he's got talent. He's also prone to making a lot of mistakes. He threw 12 interceptions, but he's kind of got that same dual threat ability as Jackson Arnold. So Hugh Freeze might be able to play mix and match with whoever's hot or playing well. Either way, I think he should have a backup who plays the same way as the starter, so they wouldn't have to change their offense fundamentally. But I think it's risky. They really didn't get out of Peyton Thorne what they were hoping to get. And now you're putting all the eggs in the Jackson Arnold basket. And maybe I think Jackson Arnold also might have been done a disservice by Brent Venables with the panic move to bench him and go with Michael Hawkins, the freshman at Oklahoma. So not going to give up on Jackson Arnold by any means. But you're not getting a sure thing. Let's just put it that way.
Well, Auburn's one of the ones, if you talk to collective people in the space and coaches, they'll tell you that Auburn's one of the schools during this last 3-4 weeks of portal hunting that has not been afraid to get out the checkbook. We talked about a few of them on the show now with LSU and Texas Tech, and Auburn's in that mix, and so is Florida, and they kind of all have something in common, right? There's a little bit of a desperation, urgency to win this coming year. And I think you're seeing that in how they're tackling and attacking the portal and some of these players and what they're what they're offering. A lot of people thought Mississippi State would get Jackson Arnold. There was the connection there with head coach Jeff Levy at State, and instead when he went to Auburn, I think there was a lot of surprise that he ended up going to Mississippi State. But Auburn is doing, it seems like, everything they can, financially to win next year. There is maybe other than Florida, there's a big urgency in winning next season, which is what Hugh Freeze's third year. They've obviously been close, but maybe the separator will be Arnold. I don't know. I don't know that we have a good evaluation of him. Like Pat mentioned in that offense in OU with Brent Venables having the quick trigger. We just don't know a lot about him. But it is interesting to hear, what's going on right now in this transition and the money being thrown out there for players that we don't know a lot about. It's really
you got to get
interesting.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
if you don't, I mean, these are massive businesses and coaching careers on the line. Like, spend it. I mean, Brian Kelly gave $1 million back to help and got a challenge going, right, to make it $2 million to try to save his job. Not saying he's going to get fired, but he's sitting there saying, we're not good enough. We got to do this.
Florida State, same thing, right? They're
one on this list.
Million.
Yeah, they're one on this list. They've got there's some others. Arkansas, got a lot of kids, so it's hard to say. They 31 guys out, on a team, so they're making a big move. FSU, they've got 12 coming in, but they've got some good ones. They've got 5 top hundreds. Deuce Robinson's a really good player, wide receiver from USC. USC's got everyone coming out. They would be on the negative list, but we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, they're spending money, but that's cool. What's also interesting is no one on these top, if you look at these lists and Rivals lists, let me see the best playoff team is. The highest ranked team to make the playoff was Indiana at 31. Is that right? So far? Now, Ohio State only has 4 guys, but they're all really good.
Yeah.
So
24/7 has Ohio State at 38.
Something like that. But they have less kids. But again, a lot of the top 100 are done. This portal and the timing really allows the search for playing time really allows teams that you look at recruiting rankings. It's going to be the top 5 teams are generally going to be in the top 10 of the recruiting. Like, they're going to build off that. That isn't really the case here in transfer portal. So,
yeah, no, and it's fast. And you talked about that, about the last year's, like, the title run impacting Michigan's ability to build a roster, and there's more teams that are involved in the playoff now, more teams that are delayed in or taken out of portal activity. So another reason that could actually level the playing field.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, we'll be back right after this.
Introducing Daily Draw, the latest free-to-play game from Yahoo Sports. Daily Draw gives you a pack of 6 prediction cards every day based on the day's biggest sporting event. Download or update the Yahoo Sports app on the Apple App Store or Google Play and join the action with Daily Draw today.
Ross, we mentioned it earlier, the what's going to happen with the playoff and all of that. And one of the things that we discussed a little bit last episode, I wanted to be more specific about, was the ability for the SEC and Big Ten to kind of control the format going forward, not next year, but the year after. And one of the things we have heard, whether it was an official proposal or just rumblings or rumors, but those things get out there for a reason, is expanding the playoff so that the SEC and the Big Ten get 4 automatic bids each, right? And then maybe 2 for the Big Ten. 2 things or some way that the SEC gets automatic bids because they deserve it, because these are the 2 best leagues. 2 things. One, I don't think there's a big appetite for an expanded playoff out there. We did not see competitiveness out of teams 9 through 12. There's not these other teams. How much better do they deserve a shot? Could they have won it? I don't see that. Well, I also don't know that there's the TV numbers to back up this big windfall of money. 2, undoubtedly, the SEC was the number one conference in college football. Undoubtedly. They had the best teams. They had the best players. They had the most draft picks. They won the championships. They blew people out. They were undoubtedly the best. This is not that era of sport. We just spent 25 minutes talking about transfer portal rankings, right? It is a totally new era. And it's not that the SEC won't have great teams again or win the national champ. Texas could, and I know they're kind of new to the league, but, the SEC will be okay. But what kind of weight can they carry in saying we deserve 4 spots in a playoff when you're coming off, you're in a new era? What happened in the old days when your location and your closeness to recruiting talent was such an undeniable advantage is no longer that advantage. And reality says, yeah, you guys will be great. You'll be good, but you're not we're just not buying. I just don't see how going forward you sit there and go, well, look, the first 9 teams in the SEC are so good. No wonder they beat each other up. That was the argument here. And then you look and watch Alabama and South Carolina losing bowl games. And it's bowl games. But I mean, that Michigan team, it wasn't like they were coming in all guns a-blazing. They were missing everybody too. And Tennessee, gets run over by Ohio State, which maybe everyone will. And Texas barely gets by Arizona State, and Georgia gets beat soundly by Notre Dame. How does the SEC, can they make the argument we deserve 4 spots when you're looking and going, why?
There'll certainly be pushback to it, right? I mean, let's go back to the spring. The Big Ten is the one that proposed, and it was, I don't know how you can, if you count an official proposal, but it was certainly proposed in the room in the meeting of 3 automatic qualifiers for each, the Big Ten and SEC, 2 for the ACC and Big 12, 1 G5, and then 3 at large, or depending on how many total teams you have, is however many at larges you have. But so it was a 3-3-2-2-1 model, and now being discussed certainly by those in the Big Ten and SEC, and something discussed certainly at their meeting in Nashville when they had that joint meeting, is a 4-4-2-2-1 model. I would guess that it would be brought up this spring, if not earlier at the January meeting in Nashville or in Atlanta around that national championship game. And I think you're right, Dan. I think there's going to be pushback against it. There was enough pushback against the 3-3-2-2-1 model in the spring for it to stop, for the conversations to stop. And the Big Ten they just stopped talking about the format, right? And they made decisions on, all right, we're going to get the TV deal done, and we're going to have guarantees to any future format, which we discussed before, which is basically the 5 highest ranked conference champions automatically get in, and Notre Dame gets in if it finishes in the top 12 or top 14. So they made the guarantees, but that's all they did because they couldn't get past the arguments on what the future will look like because there was so much pushback against the multiple AQ deal. But really, and certainly we talked about this a lot, there's going to be pushback, Dan, against changing the seating, immediately. I mean, there'll be pushback against that. So this is going to be it's going to be a really interesting meeting in Atlanta among the commissioners to try to figure out, sift through this stuff, whether they can get unanimity for an immediate change in the seating, which again, I mean, I don't know why, right? The ACC and Big 12 and the Group of 5 would vote to change the seating. They're the beneficiaries of it. And then I don't know why they would go along with a multiple AQ, although they might not have a choice there. As we've mentioned a lot, the Big Ten and SEC have authority for a lot of these future. But how far will the Big Ten and SEC go, right? How much will they push it? And ESPN will have a role obviously in that too.
Pat, is it rumble? Is it in a pile of rubble right now, the SEC's multi-bid argument?
No, it's not in a pile of rubble, but it's not in good shape. They're not playing the hand they thought they would be playing at this point. That's for sure. So they're dealing definitely from a weaker position. To me, I like, first of all, to Ross's point, I can't imagine you could get through significant changes that strongly disadvantage any of the stakeholders when you need unanimity, right? So I think they should be able to, the Big 12, ACC, G5, whoever should be able to say, we're putting the brakes on everything for 2025. 2026, all right. That's the ACC or the SEC and Big Ten's prerogative more there. The thing I think 1 year's playoff evidence is enough to be a disincentive to saying automatic bids by any numbers for anybody. I think you continue to just get the 12 teams with the conference champions, but putting any precise numbers on it, because look what we had. All right, we had SMU and Indiana versus Miami, Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina. Was there any significant difference between them? There really wasn't. And so trying to say this conference definitely deserves this many bids every year, some years you're going to get more. The SEC will get more than 3. I am sure some years. But the Big 12 may end up with 3 good teams in a year, and they should get them in, And so we would be using these hair splittings that we basically went through from the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th best teams and trying to make some firm declaration. Well, this league deserves this. I just think that would be silly.
Yeah, I'm in favor of just one, because just earn it. You'll earn it.
Yeah.
Just earn it. But specifically the way the sport is now, it's just the perception, which was reality of 5, 6, 7 years ago, where you're like, hey, look, man, 5th best team in the SEC is better than the 2nd best team in almost any conference. And you could maybe make that case. But we had years, it's Alabama, Georgia in the title game. Like, teams are so far better. But it clearly isn't the case. It isn't the case when you look at recruiting rankings. You look at when they do those full talent things, like, blue chip ratios, transfer portal rankings, and you watch the games and you're like, wait, what? Georgia can no longer just maul Notre Dame because they don't have enough linemen or one. And a Notre Dame, which used to have no depth, they'd have like 20 really good players. And then they have a couple other guys. And then, if there was injuries, they couldn't fill it in. And now they lost numerous players this year, and they still got the depth. So the sport's just different. And so to sit there and go, we deserve this many because we're this no longer exists, or that no longer, like, the history doesn't. It's different. And so I don't really care what the case was. And if we were doing this in 2018, I would say, yeah, you got a point. 2020, 2021, but we aren't. So now I just find it to be a really hard argument to say, well, we're the SEC, we deserve this many teams. Maybe, but it isn't. This isn't what it once was. So
yeah, it's not an ironclad advantage. What you're doing is just saying, well, just because we were this before, we deserve this now. And that's
back when talent was done because kids want to play. They used to say, I want to play close to mom and dad. That was the number one bit. And they want, and there's more talent in the Southeast than anywhere else. It's the number one. It's always been that case. It's why in college basketball, there's city teams can be really good, Villanova and stuff like that. Like, because, well, there's a lot of good players in Philadelphia that play basketball, and they want in New York, and they want to play there. UConn. Why is UConn good? Because they're right all there. There's a ton of players around, and they can't. Why aren't they this season notwithstanding? But why are they not great in college football? Because there ain't a ton of players. So that's just now it's playing time and money. And kids are going, I don't care where I go play. I just want to play. And so it's a different sport. So I'm opposed to it. All right. Let's get done with this. 2 things. We mentioned the high school girl in Texas who poisoned her rival's goat.
Tanya Herding.
to win. So her goat would win. And now she's facing some felony charges. Was it Willie the goat? Anyway, of course, we noted our lack of knowledge of GOAT judging, but our audience is tremendous. So first off, I don't know who sent this one in, but immediately I find out that Texas A&M's meat judging team won the lamb judging competition.
Oh, okay.
So again, Texas, if this girl gets out on parole or something, Tanya Herding gets out on parole, she might be an NIL. I don't,
She'd be a hot recruit. She'd be a 5-star recruit. I mean, back in the day, Vegas recruited some checkered characters.
Yeah, you got to recruit. Tark would go to the juvie and maybe talk to a few kids. Yeah, I mean, let's not give up on a young person.
That's right.
We all made bad decisions. Maybe not killing their rival's GOAT, but anyway, Texas A&M literally on January 2nd won the meat judging lamb division.
Fresh triumph. There we go.
love our audience. They're right in. Then Hollywood John, who's kind of our ag and expert. Yet his name's Hollywood John.
Yeah, that's
he said here's the GOAT situation because we weren't sure how you do this. So I'm just going to read this. You and Pat nailed it. For the GOAT thing, we evaluate multiple species: cattle, pigs, lambs, goats, rabbits, chickens, turkeys, sometimes eggs. What? For the live animal, we use similar terms of the meat judging. But we do things like look for how well they move and how parts of their body tie together, very much like dog shows. This is the GOAT judging. There are certain traits that are more desirable. This is where it gets a little, who has the most powerful, muscular, widest back. Okay, this is where we're off the rails.
What the hell?
There's hundreds of thousands of dollars spent trying to win these contests. I mean, across the country, there's plenty of money being spent, but just like recruiting, Texas takes it to all the way up. So it just means more.
Oh my gosh.
Meat judging.
That's tremendous. I think we should try to make it an off-season project for one of us at least to attend one of these judging things.
Well, it could be you. Why don't you volunteer for that?
Yeah.
There you go.
Why don't we could each go to a different one. We can compare what you said, they're turkey judging? Did you say turkeys?
Cattle, pigs, lamb, goats, rabbits, chickens, turkeys, and sometimes eggs. Eggs.
What?
How do you judge eggs?
I mean, I know there's like jumbo.
They don't move around. They don't, they
extra large. Then there's the little ones. More from Hollywood John. For reference, weeks-old livestock oftentimes get sold for thousands of dollars. My senior year of high school in 2010, I spent $750 for a piglet that I had to pay to feed for months and then show at the fair.
Wow. How did the piglet do? Did he win money on the piglet?
He did not say.
Piglet?
I'm guessing if he had, he would have told us. But I'm sure he'll listen to this and
please let us know.
It's just a world I don't know about. And I'm not sure I want to know. But I think you should go, Pat, to the Hollywood John would love to host you. He would love to host you.
I'm sure.
This sounds like thoroughbred breeding, but there's hundreds of millions of dollars at stake there. I mean, there's a little.
Is this a thing? Do you judge these animals and then they're shipped
prize
off,
money,
slaughtered?
I mean,
I think they breed. Maybe you breed them
or what?
Hollywood John, he lives he's a Fresno State football fan.
Sweet,
but I think he went to Texas A&M. I talk to him often.
Well, I appreciate Hollywood John's input. Tell him we'll take a little more.
Yeah. Anyway, so
you can send us the livestock judging calendar, and we can pick out one to go to.
Yeah, maybe that's our thing. But
what about a live show? All of us at one of these judging. What about us judging it? Can we get?
No, that'd be insulting. I don't judge a goat.
This is
a serious thing.
Oh, we could be the alternate judges.
That's right.
It's a good looking egg.
Yeah.
A Western omelet? Like what?
Yeah. Yes.
Judge an egg.
That egg is bad. That egg
Jimmy's
is good.
Diner. Like what? Short order cook? I don't understand the egg, but God bless it. I think they just get bored and they need something like anything else, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have sports writing competitions, and that's got to be the dumbest idea ever. Who cares?
I wonder what it's like attending an APSC convention.
That'd be pretty boring, wouldn't it? Reading all the
Oh.
game stories from games 6 months ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of dumb awards out there. Slaughtering just don't mess with the animals, man. Ross trying to kill Willie the goat. Anyway, that's our show. We'll be back with more playoff talk later in the week. Hope everyone's doing well.
Award-winning show.
Award-winning.
judges win.
Is there a podcast awards? There probably is. Amazingly, we've never won one. Amazingly.
This show ain't going to be the one that
I don't
wins.
think
This is not going to be the one.
No. All right. There's room for improvement. Talk to you later.